Yes. My name is Stephen Heins, or I've been called Steve and Morse. I am the president of the Energy Pragmatist, a not-for-profit that emphasizes practical energy and energy efficiency.
That were right there. The last 5 seconds, you had you sound a lot more clear. So that's the perfect spot. And today,
Okay.
we're going to bring in Mr. Stephen Heins with the Energy Pragmatist to talk about what's going on in Whiting. We talked about this last November when they posted $1.2 billion in debt, and these numbers are rough, and the timelines are rough here because I don't have the story in front of me. But earlier, they came out with this file in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Of course, bankruptcies now, it's so hard to know what it means in today's day and age, who's going to get paid, if they're going to restructure, how that's going to work. Well, shortly after that comes up.
It's really Wall Street financial engineering.
And that's why we brought you in, was to talk a little bit about what's going on here, because these executives with their salaries, I'll tell you what, I've gotten over a half a dozen texts already, and this thing's hot off the press. Mm-hmm. People from North Dakota that are just ticked off because this is not good PR, but at the same time, this isn't everything that it's cracked up to be, is it?
No, it was before the bankruptcy, and they did it, I think, last week. But, right now it's really Wall Street, and they're refinancing it. The executives will not get that $14.5 million in cash payments.
Well, and that's what I mean by it's not really what it makes it out to be, but at the same time, that's the headline. That's what grabs you.
Yep. Well, they didn't get the money, and the deal that the restructuring has is that the executives will get 8% of the stock after they emerge from Chapter 11.
Okay, you're back to sounding good again. All right, and $14.6 million cash bonuses, top executives. I'm looking all over social media, and boy, these guys are really getting hammered by their own people. It's people in the industry. Of course, we saw this coming with layoffs. Once layoffs happen, if the industry's not there to hire them back, are the people going to be love for the industry, or are they going to turn their back on the industry? And this doesn't help.
I don't think they have the whole story, Jason.
Oh, I know they don't. That's why I brought you in, so we can talk about it.
They're not going to get 14.5. One of the reasons why they went to a Chapter 11. Sorry, as you know, I worked on Wall Street, and I've sort of been a part of that thinking also. But it was to capture the billions of dollars of loss. So the new company, when they start making money again, they're not going to have to pay taxes until hell freezes over. And one of the reasons why they did the Chapter 11 was to capture those losses, the loss carry forwards. But right now, and I have Barron's and Wall Street Journal, so I'm pretty comfortable trusting their information. But the executives will not be receiving that money. What they will be receiving is 8% of the stock. Wall Street isn't very confident with the management right now, though. So it's really up in the air. Although the headlines say executives get 16.4, but or 14.5. And Mr. Holly gets 6.4, but that was according, they're filing, but since then the Chapter 11 sort of negates it all.
Well, I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out. I mean, we've got a lot. Whiting is, if not the biggest, one of the top two in North Dakota for the Bakken, and it's back and forth with them in Continental, and then you've got 55% of the state's budget is tied to that oil production and extraction tax. I have absolutely no idea what the bankruptcy means for the state. I've been putting calls in to Governor Burgum, and actually Lieutenant Governor Sanford is who I'm specifically asking for. Because,
I'm not sure they know right now, Jason, because this is really all...
But this is a conversation that I've been trying to have since last November with them, since they put up the $1.2 billion in debt, because... Sanford's an accountant. So he gets it, and without and we don't want to point the finger at Whiting. We just wanted to say, hey, listen, we have Russia, we've got Saudi Arabia causing a little bit of a shock system going on here, and this was pre-corona that these issues were starting to percolate, and so that's the other part of this too, is how much of the coronavirus and COVID is going to get lumped in here with what's going on with the oil and gas when it comes to the recent with Whiting. You saw Jim Cramer came out and said this is just the beginning.
I don't Jim Cramer with anything. I wouldn't.
He's a blowhard without a doubt, but he gets headlines.
But here, let's get back to what the legal side to this. Everything changed when they filed for Chapter 11 today. All bets are off. So anything back in November or this promise from 2 weeks ago or a week ago, they borrowed another $262,000 or $1 million this last week, and it was supposed to come due on Wednesday of this upcoming. So this is really big time finance, and of course Whiting it's a big name. It's they're with Chesapeake, although I'm sure they don't want to necessarily be there with Chesapeake. But as far as states, a lot of states depend. Pennsylvania, as you know, with Tom Shepstone and Jim Willis. But the problem is Saudi Arabia has been saving their form of government by giving their people a lot of money, which has now disappeared. The same thing for Russia. Putin's in big trouble. He can't buy off the population anymore. So, this is something the world's going to have to face, not just North Dakota or the United States or whatever. This is global now.
I always wonder about this when this isn't the first. Listen, this is Windstream earlier this year. They filed bankruptcy. The CEOs and all the executives got millions of dollars. Of course, it goes back to Enron, where that was one of the big ones back in 2012. Coming out of the recession of 2008 and 9, for the next 3-4 years, that's what was happening. The CEOs were getting top salaries before bankruptcy. I'm sorry, bonuses before bankruptcies, to where some
changed because of that experience.
Well, I was going to say some states actually passed laws to prevent this kind of stuff, and so
it's also it's in the SEC right now.
What I don't get though, here's what I don't get, and this is my tinfoil hat journalist, talking here.
Okay.
Usually, when you get a bonus, it's because you got paid to do your job and you did a good job. Did these guys did these guys get paid a bonus to drive this into the ground or what? What the heck?
Look at sports, though. Mr. Tinfoil Hat. Look at sports. How many people get paid, $20 million and tear a knee or something, and they can't play again? So in some ways, those bonuses were sort of part of the package to keep them on now.
Yeah, I know. It just seems a little bit of some distaste, when you.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah, a bonus is different than a salary, is what I'm getting at, and a bonus is usually for doing above and beyond your job, or you meet a goal, meet a quota.
2008, 2009, Jason, it wasn't that way. They were that was part of their salary package, and they got it. That is not happening anymore. And a good part of the reason is because of what happened then. But I think it's still early right now. We've got a month or so of this COVID before any of us can really figure out anything. It'll be interesting. The shares are what are selling it. They were selling at $115 a share back in 2015, and now it's at 67 cents right now. First of all, they don't have the cash to give these guys anyway, really. And they no longer control the books.
Steve Heins, Energy Pragmatist, talking about the Whiting executives receiving the bonus before bankruptcy, and of course, reminding it's not always what it appears to be once they file bankruptcy. So, Steve, you're talking about there's a good chance from what you're reading on the Wall Street Journal and Barron's, you said, that once the bankruptcy is filed, these guys probably are going to have that retracted because it's stock.
Yeah, well, it's going to be replaced by 8% of the stock after they go through Chapter 11.
So let me ask you a bigger picture here. You were on Wall Street, and you did a little bit, with the AOL Time Warner merger. You understand the telecommunications side of things. To me, that's the bigger picture in this whole thing.
Well, yes. So you bet it
is that between remote.
Can't be done without energy, though.
Well, that's what I mean with energy, with remote drilling and big data and everything else that's going on with the home offices and from like I said from remote drilling to home offices, that's what we're seeing is this integration now.
Well, I think everybody realizes, that's what they meant by the Internet of Things, because everybody's now working at home. They now realize they need T5. They're talking about T6, T7, but the fact is that energy will always power this transformation in the internet. Why? Because the internet, these technologies need electricity and they need energy. So it will energy will always be in the front row. With maybe a couple other things, big data, artificial intelligence. Let me think. What else can? The other thing though that happens once you go on the internet and you are able to measure and verify consumptions in real time, Jason, which means utilities can tell what their customers are using. Their customers can tell what they are using in real time, which means we're going to be able to become much more efficient with electricity, with all kinds of energy, which is all good.
Well, I'm looking at some of these comments on social media as you're talking about. Boy, they're really taking some of these executives to town and talking about some of the mismanagement and basically. Here's what I'm wondering: is the industry going to? And I'm hoping they do. I hope they stand behind the industry, but at the same time, like I said, boy, it almost seems like they're really attacking each other here.
Well, it is a case of some are going to get eaten and some are going to be eators, and the smaller group will be the eaters, and the bigger group will be the eaten, and that's just the way that's the way it works, especially when you have a cyclical economy, which we've had that since the beginning of time, and the one thing that we have over Russia and place like Saudi Arabia is we let the market work more, which means it adjusts quickly and efficiencies are captured as it goes forward.
I think the one obstacle that Whiting's going to have is when they laid off all those workers last July. That if the executives are getting millions of dollars of bonuses,
they won't, though. They won't, Jason.
Haven't they gotten some though at all?
No.
Okay.
No money has changed hands, and as of today, again, this is like overtime. So whatever was agreed to in regular time is all off the table. This is a whole new company going through Chapter 11. Executives will get 8% of the company after it's settled, but they will not get 14.6 or whatever their bonuses are. That's gone because they never received it and they won't.
Boy, I tell you, that's something else because a lot of the stories are really letting you believe the other way, that they're going to be receiving all this different money. I mean, the one Bloomberg says $6.4 million to Brad Hawley. I met Brad Hawley, and
that was the deal they made, but that deal is no longer valid. And by the way, Bloomberg has a lot of credibility problems in their own right. This is a time. As I was telling my son, I wrote the shortest poem I've ever written. It has 3 words: credibility isn't political. And I think right now, guys like you and me, we have battled for credibility on these broader issues, including fracking and environmental. This is the time for us to provide the good news while the social media gets it wrong.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we brought you on here, is to talk about the other side of the story. Because I mean, there's like I said, I'm looking at social media and they're really dogging on these guys, and at the same time, I just know there's always more to it.
World. welcome to the new world order.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Well, it's like I texted you earlier. I said I'm gonna invest in yacht polish and surf repellent.
I like that. That was very funny. Very funny. I like it.
Well,
But a sense of humor now. Uh, I've made the mistake of paying pretty close attention, but I look at both sides, at both political sides, and neither one of them are. You can't trust either side anymore.
how are
You know, you
people?
just can't.
How are people contacting you this day? Website, LinkedIn, both. What's going on?
Yeah, well, LinkedIn, they can catch me on website, the practicalenvironmentalist.com. My phone number, and you can reach me directly. I work at home while everybody else is transitioning into the new world of home offices. I've been doing it now for about 10 years, and I know a lot about technology and all. So it feels like any other week right now for me. But I can be reached at 920-918-8098. And I'd love to talk to any of your listeners if they're looking for a guy who pays very close attention to this stuff and is retired so he doesn't have to work. all he does is follows this stuff carefully.